Welcome to part 2 of 3ds Max Design Basics. We will pick up where we left off in part 1, starting with the Snaps tool. If you notice, the Snaps tool have this little magnet symbol right next to them. You have snaps, angle snaps, and percent snaps. The standard Snaps tool is for movement using the Move tool. The angle snap is for rotate, and the percentage snap is for scale. Now, these snaps work similar to the snaps functions in AutoCAD and other Autodesk programs. If you right-click on the snaps tool, you bring up your snap setting, and you can change the snap area to grid points, pivot, perpendicular, whatever, just like you can in Autodesk other products. Also in this menu you have the home grid, which is this light grid area here. You can set the grid spacing. Right now it's a grid unit is a 10-inch square. You can change that here, and you can change it based on active viewport. If you've got all four, if I hit Alt W, it brings up all four views. So and you notice the yellow border lets you know which viewport you're in, unless of course you're in auto key, which it actually turns red. We'll get to that later, but these snaps tools and the grid settings can be set to either the active viewport, which in this case would be perspective, or all viewports. Generally, I would say if you're changing your grid spacing, you want to do it for all viewports. Your user grid, I don't hardly ever use that, so I wouldn't even bother with it. But just pay particular attention to your snap setting and your home grid. The same is true with the rotate or angle snaps. You can snap, right now by default it snaps to every 5-degree mark. So if I were to create an object, say a box, and then go into rotate and make sure that my snaps tool is on. If you notice down here, when I rotate the object, it snaps to 5-degree increments. Okay, and of course you can change that to whatever you want to. You can change it to percent of the rotation, and other features that I don't ever use. Again, I mean, the main thing here is the angle setting. Now the percentage setting, the percentage snap, again, as I said, is for scaling objects. And here right now, if I were to scale this object, it would scale, watch the coordinate system down here. If I would scale it, it goes down 10, 10, 10, 10. Okay, so this is where you set that. And trust me, this kind of thing with the rotate and the scale, and occasionally even the movement snaps, comes very much in handy when you're trying to get precision. So moving along, we will talk about selection sets. Now, if you have several items in your scene, as I mentioned in the last video, let me create a couple of more items here. If you have several images in your scene, there are many ways you can select them. You can drag out a box to select them directly. You can go to your select by name and shift select however many items you want. You can also use the control key to deselect. Okay. And all of that is well and good, but when you have a scene that has a lot of objects, you may not want to go through this every time you want to select a certain group. Now, grouping is another option that you can use where you can connect or group several objects together. The problem is that those objects, once they're grouped, can't be edited separately without opening the group, and that's kind of cumbersome. So what you can do is you can select these objects, come up to create selection set, and say set 1. Again, this is not the best naming convention, but it's just for an example. So this set will include the torus, the box, and the sphere, and then hit enter and deselect. So now I can still select these individual objects, move them wherever I want to. Okay, but I can also come back up here to selection sets, click on that, and it selects all 3 objects. This is a handy tool. The next tool or tools that we'll be talking about are the mirror tool and the align tool. These tools are similar to, again, other Autodesk programs. Let's see, if we have a sphere here and we want to mirror it over here, we can select mirror. We can select instance or copy. We'll go over that later, but for the time being we'll just select instance. And then we can select the mirror axis. Right now it's set to X. This is the X plane. So if I move this, it's going to move the sphere over, as you can see. So now we've got 2 spheres. They're mirrored, and because they're instances, they're connected to each other, so they maintain the same properties as each other. So if I say OK, I come in here and select the sphere and change the radius. You see that both spheres are changing because they're instances of each other. Again, we'll go into that in more detail later. The align tool allows you to align objects to each other. Say I want to align this sphere to this box. Okay, so you select the first thing, the thing you want to align to something else, and then hit the align tool, and then click on the object you want to align to. Okay, right now it's aligned on all positions. Okay, we just wanted to align it to the Y position and the X position. Okay, so now it's right on top of the box. We can also do minimum, which is the minimum of the current object, which is in this case the sphere, the minimum of the target object, which is the box. The best way to use this until you're comfortable with it is to just play around with it till you get it where you want it. It can be kind of confusing, minimum and maximum. What does that mean? Especially on a sphere where you don't have what you could call a top and a bottom. But you'll get used to this. Again, just play around with it. Play around with the position. Notice, how that snaps to different axes. And that's the align tool. Of course, you've got other align tools we'll go into more in depth later on.